LeBron James might be the most polarizing figure in all of sports today. Since his decision to sign with the Miami Heat in 2010, LeBron haters and fans have been at each other's necks on social media nonstop. And even more recently, with his recent accomplishments and continued domination of the league, his case for the NBA GOAT has caused his fans and haters to become even more obsessed with him. And while there are annoying people on both sides of the spectrum, I'd like to address some of the unnecessary points that are used to hate on LeBron, because I have noticed that people tend to hold LeBron to a different standard than any other player I've ever seen. First, let's discuss the GOAT debate. For me personally, the GOAT debate is really stupid, and I feel as though old heads will continue to think of MJ, Kareem, Bill Russell, and even Wilt as their GOATs, while it will be more common for newer age fans to have players like LeBron and Kobe as their GOATs. And at the end of the day, it's just a sports debate. It doesn't really need to be taken seriously, and the greatest of all time is subjective. It is not objective. But sadly, some people seem to take the debate so seriously that they find themselves defending or hating on Jordan or LeBron every single day, arguing against other people who more than likely won't be changing their minds on the debate. I'd also like to say that I do not personally have a pick for the NBA GOAT, and I'm a person who thinks that the evolution of the game makes it hard to say that one player is the definitive greatest, because the game is constantly changing, so I tend to think that the GOAT discussion should be broken down into eras. But I would say that LeBron is the GOAT of the post-MJ era, along with Kobe and Tim Duncan. But anyway, let's continue. LeBron seems to be one of the most hated athletes on the planet, and unfortunately, because of the age of social media, any information used to discredit the man on his career travels fast to other LeBron haters. And unluckily, one of the biggest talking heads in sports is Skip Bayless, a man who can be considered the grandfather of LeBron haters, who makes his millions of dollars by bashing LeBron every day on his show Undisputed, by spreading false narratives and blowing every LeBron related subject way out of proportion. And one of the most frequent arguments used by Skip to discredit LeBron is this narrative that LeBron doesn't have a clutch gene like Kobe and Jordan. And I think this is a really dumb argument, because LeBron's version of clutch doesn't look like Kobe and Jordan's versions of clutch, because they're different players at the end of the day. Kobe and Jordan were assassins who would take every opportunity to torment the player guarding them, but that often resulted in more difficult shots and therefore missed clutch shots. On the other hand, LeBron's version of clutch may be taking the last shot, but it also means finding the teammate who is the most open to take the highest percentage shot given the situation. But it also doesn't help Skip's argument that LeBron literally has better clutch stats than Kobe and Jordan in the playoffs. And again, this is no disrespect to either player, this is just me debunking a myth that Skip Bayless has been spreading for many years, and a myth that LeBron haters have been using to discredit LeBron despite it being untrue. Now, another topic I want to discuss is the fact that LeBron James, unlike any other player, seems to have the goalposts shifted for him all the time in order to discredit him. Given LeBron's greatness, he seems to always be compared to Michael Jordan no matter what he does. And while this is understandable, given his case for being the greatest of all time, it doesn't make sense to me how certain things relating to MJ can be seen as positive, but when it comes to LeBron, these things can be seen as a negative. And there are several examples of this, but one that comes to mind was when LeBron claimed that he was robbed of the MVP of the 2019-2020 NBA season.
Pissed me off. That's my true answer. It pissed me off because out of 101 votes, I got 16 first place votes. That's what pissed me off more than anything. Not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP, but that pissed me off.
And shortly after the statement, I remember seeing LeBron haters saying that he was whiny and that he was a complainer and that Jordan would never say that, he would just work harder. But these are really stupid things to say after we all watched The Last Dance, and literally any time any player was close to challenging MJ, he would come out and say that he was better and that he felt disrespected. Even after the 1993 MVP award was given to Charles Barkley,
I was a little bit upset that I didn't get the MVP that year and they gave it to Charles Barkley. But with that said, okay, fine, you can have that. I'm gonna get this.
and the 97 MVP award was given to Karl Malone.
What's the biggest motivating factor going into that series for you?
Karl Malone get MVP.
Congratulations, Karl Malone, 1996-97 NBA Most Valuable Player.
So we knew immediately where this was going.
I'm not saying he wasn't deserving of it. All I'm saying is that fueled the fire in me and said, okay, You think he's the MVP? Okay, fine, no problem.
Jordan said that he was offended that he didn't win those years, but that it was okay because I'm going to win the championship, which is basically what LeBron said in 2020. And when Jordan said it, it was praised as him having killer mentality and being the reason why he's the GOAT. But when LeBron says it, it's about him being whiny or him not being a killer and that he just wants to complain, that he just wants to rack up accolades. He's not focused on winning a ring, which again makes no sense to me. Now let's tackle another dumb argument used to slander LeBron. And this argument is the declaration that he is weak-minded. I would say for a guy who's been under the spotlight since he was about 15 or 16, who was dubbed the next great NBA star or the chosen one or the guy who would take after Michael Jordan, all while coming up during the social media era, LeBron has handled the pressure pretty well. And when people call him weak-minded, they point out how tough Michael Jordan was. But Michael Jordan himself stated, "I don't know if I could have survived in the social media era." And we also know that Jordan was super image conscious, like the example they showed in The Last Dance, where one negative article was written about Jordan when he retired to play baseball, and after that he never ever did an interview with anyone from Sports Illustrated ever again.
On or off the court, Jordan guarded his carefully tilled public image.
He has an awful lot of clout. And I've heard from more than one person that if you step outside the bounds of how he wants you perceived, then the word will get to you.
I'm very image conscious, probably more than I should be.
We wrote a story about him in Sports Illustrated when he was trying to play baseball. And I think the story was fairly sympathetic, but the cover was "Bag It, Michael." And he, to this day, will not talk to this magazine.
Jordan enlisted the media in his efforts to stay balanced on the high wire.
We protected him more than I'd like to admit.
And we also saw how exhausted Jordan was after the first 9 years of his career. In fact, we learned that during the Dream Team summer in 1992, he was already telling Mark Vancil that he wanted to retire and go play baseball if the Bulls could three-peat. So let's not engage in this revisionist history where we forget that Jordan did have his downfalls and flaws. Let's also give credit to guys like LeBron and Kobe, who were hated by the league and fans for so many years of their careers and still managed to thrive with all that negativity being thrown their way. And now we get to the argument about LeBron's finals record. Firstly, try to think of a player in NBA history who has at least 4 rings who gets criticized for their ring count. Shaq, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Kareem, Jordan, Magic, all players who have at least 4 rings, but none of them ever get slandered for not having enough. Shaq played with prime Kobe more or less, Penny Hardaway, and Dwayne Wade, but LeBron James is the only one out of those players who gets attacked for not having won enough rings because of the talented players with whom he played. And if you want to bring finals record into the conversation, yes, LeBron's 2011 finals was one of the worst finals performances ever by a superstar. But some of the other losses on his resume, like 2007, 2015, and 2018, were a result of Cavaliers teams that were shorthanded either because of injuries or talent, being matched up with a Spurs team in the middle of their 20-year dynasty in 2007, or a Warriors team with their newly crowned MVP in 2015, or a super team with 2 top 5 players in the league, the best 3-and-D player in the league, and the reigning defensive player of the year in 2018. See, oftentimes in the finals, LeBron has had to carry depleted teams while being matched up against some of the best teams in NBA history. Remember when people were comparing the 2017 and 2018 Warriors to the 1995-96 Bulls? And this isn't even the Warriors team that won 73 games. This is the team that added KD to the team that did win 73 games. Now, tell me a player in NBA history who could be placed on that 2007 or that 2018 Cavs roster who could have won against those Spurs or that Warriors super team. And even with those finals losses, why can't we just celebrate LeBron for the 4 rings that he did manage to win and leave it at that? I mean, look at the NBA logo. Jerry West's finals record was 1-8, but he became the whole NBA logo. And I don't mean that as a slight to Jerry, but I'm just trying to prove that players can be celebrated and appreciated without us having to bash them. Additionally, superstar talents like Wilt Chamberlain had a 2-4 finals record, and Elgin Baylor was a whopping 0-7 in the NBA finals in his career. But these two are known as legends of their time, and we rarely discuss their postseason failures. Instead, we just recognize their greatness as NBA legends. Now, the last thing I find really dumb is how people try to discredit LeBron's fourth ring. Remember back in 2020 when Rudy Gobert went to that interview and rubbed his hands all over those microphones, and that more or less led to the 4-month shutdown of the NBA? And remember how we all felt sad because there were no sports to watch for 4 months? And we kept saying how we'd give anything to be able to watch NBA basketball again. And then also remember how grateful we were when Adam Silver and Chris Paul and all the other executives involved were able to create the genius idea of the NBA bubble so that the season could be finished? Well, how come since the Lakers won, people are now trying to say that the ring doesn't count? If I'm not mistaken, every team was put under the same circumstances. And if the Mickey Mouse ring was so easy to win, why didn't just any old team win them? This is another way that people seem to discredit LeBron, because before the Lakers won, we were all equally excited to just get basketball back, even if it was in the bubble with no fans. But after the Lakers won, all of a sudden the narrative changed, and LeBron haters tried to say that he only won his 4th championship because of the circumstances of the bubble and the fact that there were no fans. But then we jump forward to this season where the Lakers got eliminated, and it kind of hurts them because they had the shortest offseason in NBA history, and in a season where the Lakers started to look really good, but then they had to overcome injuries and lack of chemistry late in the season. People are still finding ways to bash LeBron and even question his legacy. At 36 years old, 4 rings later, 4 MVPs later, 4 Finals MVPs later, people are really trying to doubt this man's legacy at 36 years old after 18 years, which is just ridiculous. See, the discourse around LeBron always tends to be a bit biased, but I can sort of understand where it's coming from. Old heads who grew up with Kareem, Magic, Bird, or Jordan are used to the game being played a certain way, and maybe they feel threatened that a new generation player like LeBron can come and take the title as the best player of all time, because those other guys are players they grew up watching. They can't really relate to LeBron as much. And on the other hand, the younger generation fans weren't alive to see any of those players, but since they have LeBron, they want to believe that he's the greatest of all time, because who doesn't want to get older and tell people that they grew up watching the greatest player of all time? All in all, the GOAT debate really shouldn't matter because it's all personal preference, and it certainly shouldn't be a topic that's being discussed on sports media shows every single day or even every week. But with that being said, like I said in my last video, we should appreciate players while they're here because one day they won't be at the top of their game anymore. And how sad would it be to look back and only have memories of being a hater of an amazing player like LeBron when you could have enjoyed his success. With that, I urge you to be more appreciative of the players who are lucky enough to witness and just enjoy the game. Thank you.